Peacock Angel by E.S. Drower, being some account of votaries of a secret cult and their sanctuaries. Chapter 19, Conversations with my hosts. Be sure that those thou lookest on are neither evil, nor are the children of evil men. Eucritus, Del 22. Well, you don't have to be like your parents, whether they were good or bad. On the previous evening, I had sat for a while with the men by the leaping fire on the platform beneath. The company, consisting of the three police, the Sheikh, Hadji, and the Yazidi lad. We had conversed of countries and towns. Is Londra in England, or is England in Londra? Asked the Sheikh. How big is Londra? Asked someone. As big as Baghdad or bigger. Then about the war. This war now, why has peace not been made? Was it not 6 months and nothing had been done? Inshallah, inshallah. The war will not reach us here, but already sugar has become very dear. And as the Khatun knows, we like plenty of sugar in our tea. This was always a grievance. Then we passed to speaking of stars and comets, and one of the older men said that before the last war, a large star, father of a tail, had appeared in the sky, very bright it was, and the tail also. I reminded him that Halley's comet had appeared 2 years before the war, and said that at the time I had been visiting Palestine, where people had prayed all night, thinking that the end of the world was at hand. Then turning to the Sheikh, I asked him, what do your people say about the end of the world and the day of Qiyamah? Now, one of the things that we find is that one of the known signs of the some of the signs, or one of the signs of the final days, relates to Halley's comet. But isn't that like every 79 years or something like that? So it's just a further notice that, he was sitting, his legs tucked beneath him, half in the firelight and half in the night of the stars. The light of the stars. Answered cautiously, we say. He replied that such things are in the hand of God, and that being men, we cannot know. Now, the fortune-telling arts are so strongly linked to coming from the Yazidi, but we have, what do they mean by God? People mean different things by God. We need to remember that. These sessions by the fire were good for talk, and it was here that the fakir became cumulative. He belongs to a hereditary order, the Faktaron, a lad born into the caste, need not become a fakir, but adopts the calling voluntarily. There is a preliminary instruction and an initiation, after which the young man anxious to enter the brotherhood fasts for 3 days before he is invested with a kirqa, a rough woolen tunic worn next to the skin. In olden times, said the fakir, a 40 days fast was required of them. This tunic, which is the sacred badge of the fakir, is black in color, round at the neck, stitched with red wool, falls to the hips, being split at the side of the body from the waist down, and is held around the waist by a sacred girdle. It is equal length all the way round, not shorter behind, as M. Roger Lescott states in his book about the Yazidis. It is woven of pure lamb's wool and dyed by an infusion of the leaves of the Zergud and Ghazwan terebinth trees. The leaves are boiled with the wool, and then by the grace of God, the white becomes black. One of the things about that is we think of the red thread used among some Jews, right? During his fast and the initiation, the would-be fakir remains in the house, and no one must approach him. At its end, he takes a hot bath and is invested with a kirka by his other brother, who also puts upon him the scarlet woven woolen girdle, which goes almost twice round the waist, and a sacred thread of twisted red and black wool round his neck. And this thread, called the maftul, may never be removed. The faqih must wear nothing white, nor may he wear anything between his skin and the kirka. Dr. Reshu said that when he first wore it, the rough wool irritated his skin, but that now he is used to it. From the day that he becomes a fakir, a man must not cut his beard, but the head is shaved, and Fakir Reshu took off his turban, pushi, and the black woolen skullcap, kulik, to show me his head. In the olden days, he said, fakirs were not allowed to slaughter, but nowadays they are permitted to kill a sheep or fowl when necessary. I asked whether there were the prescribed number of threads in the girdle, shutek, but he replied that there were not. The asceticism of the order is not severe. Fakir may not drink alcohol or smoke, but coffee and tea are not forbidden him. Nor is his winter clothing the same as his summer, for in winter he wears a warm waistcoat, the sakma, and a short outer jacket of red frogged with black, the damire. The fakir is regarded as a holy person and has privileges. In his presence, there must be no brawling, and if he arrives when a quarrel is in progress, the dispute must stop instantly. Even a kirka brought in the absence of the fakir himself and hung on a tree has been known to check a fight. The fakir has such authority that he may beat a man as much as he likes, and no one may retaliate or lift a hand against him, since it is a sin to strike a fakir. The sacredness of the kirka protects him, commented Jadon, second in sacredness to the kirka, which may be removed and washed when necessary, is the maftul, the sacred thread described above, which must be washed upon the person, as it may never be removed. And one of the things that we find is that some of this can be the origins of the so-called religious police that go about. On another occasion, I asked the fakir about fasts and fasting. The subject may have come up because of their concern at my meatless diet. I mentioned to him that Lescott says that fakirs fast 92 days in the year. Well, so representing each season, right? Well, I mean, each day in a season, so 91 or 92. That is wrong, replied Fakir Reshu. We fast 3 days at the beginning of Kanun Awal, at the Id of Roja, the sun feast, at the beginning of December. We do not fast in Ramadan, but we observe the Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Tahira, and Ba'aram as feasts, and begin the Eid al-Tahira a day earlier than the Muslimin, so that it lasts for 4 days. We call it the Eid al-Hajjiyah, and the Qur'aniyun tend to do some of that too. They tend to say most years, because they say the new moon rather than the sighting of the moon, like the Quran and stuff indicates, because they want to be different than the traditional Muslim. I asked about the Eid Ezeh, the feast of Yazid, that he replied, and the Eid Rojeh, are one and the same, for it follows a day after the 3 days fast. As for the Edda Sarsala, it is the second feast in importance of all the year. This was the spring feast I just witnessed in Bashika. Now, in the Islamic world, everybody's agreed that there's two Eids. I mean, as far as Islam is considered. The first 3 days of the 10th month, a lot of people say it's only the 10th, and the first month, the first of the 10th. And the months are decided by the sighting of the crescent moon. And then there's also day 10 through 13 of the 12th month. And some Satanists fast those days because the Muslimin are not allowed to fast on those 5 to 7 days. I asked about the Feast of the Dead, mentioned by Lescott, and he told me that it was identical with the spring feast. All were anxious to tell me about the great feast, the Idda Jama'iyah, Feast of Assembly. When the entire Yazidi world travels to Sheikh Adad, it seems that the quiet valley becomes then a town, and its peace is turned into carnival. Every roof, every cave shelters pilgrims, and many camp out or sleep on the hillside, wrapped in a quilt. The sides of the valley at night are covered with twinkling lights. Fakareshu hopes to reap a harvest, then to recoup himself for his expenditure on his year's tenancy. As I have mentioned elsewhere, it is this feast that the garlanded bull is sacrificed. The Feast of Assembly then takes place in September and must correspond with the Manda'an New Year's feast. Talking of feasts and fasts brought us to those of other religions. I confess that my abstentions had nothing to do with religion. The Nestorians observe the fakir, fast much, and their fast is severe. No meat, no egg, no milk, no butter, and no fat may pass their lips. And in spring they fast thus for 50 days. And yet, I commented, most Assyrian priests are fleshy and fat. It is their piety, said the fakir gravely, that by the power of God fattens their bodies. Now we have dots here in page 182. Is there stuff left out? It doesn't necessarily seem like there is in any of these. During the cooler part of the day, I went to visit the southern side of the valley, for I had not completed my tour of systematic examination. Jadon was pleased to show me the shrine of the sheikh to whose family he is hereditarily attached, namely that of Sheikh Sajuddin. It will be remembered that there is a shrine dedicated to this sheikh between Bashika and Bahsana. That Sit Gule claims descent from him and from the angel Gabriel, who incarnated to found the family. His mazar here at Sheikh Adad was without a spire, but the treble arch of the doorway was decorated by chevron ornament, which gave it a Norman appearance. Thus, from this shrine is used to get rid of, dust from this shrine is used to get rid of pests. If cultivation is attacked by locusts, a little is sprinkled on the fields, and the insects depart. If rats are a nuisance in a storehouse or granary, some of the dust is scattered about the place, making them decamp immediately. So say Hajj and Jadon. Perhaps there's some spell that they recite during that. The Yazidi lad who accompanied us showed me warts on his hands and feet. Had I no ointment with me that would cure them? They told me that warts are caused by contact of a person's foot with the urine of a frog. The mullah here, when we go barefoot, there are frogs everywhere in the grass. It is an easy matter to come by them. The next shrine we visited was that of Sheikh Mohammed. The door was a trefoil-headed arch, but otherwise There was nothing worthy comment about this mazar. Just above the shrine, a pure Hazel Mama, or Mame, is decorated with a comb, a gopal, enclosing a star-like figure, and other conventional designs. And there's like a stretched out half, well, it's not a circle, but you know what I mean. It's like the cord. And how many bits on the comb? 9 bits on the comb. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Oh, well, I guess there's 10. And the gopal is like a shepherd's crook and divided by 8. There's a circle in the middle of the top bit of that. Close to the hillside is a terebinth of great age with an enormously thick trunk. Next mazar is that of Sheikh Mund, a more pretentious building in bad repair. Curiously enough, no snake is represented on its walls, although it is dedicated to the sheikh, whose descendants are reputed to have power over serpents. Dust from this shrine, according to Hajjah, is good for illness of all kinds, but is not used especially for curing snakebite. It grows dark swiftly in the valley, and we stood back to let the fakir hurry past us with his vessel of oil and flaming wicks. The vessel, I learned, was called a khira, and the ladle for the sacred oil a khebchak. I closed my notebook and returned. Presently, Deya Kota appeared on my terrace, accompanied by the fakir's sun-browned wife, Meme, and her black-eyed baby, Meme, who told the Arabic of Bahsana, acted as interpreter. Deya Kota had come to take me to task for eating my own food instead of that prepared in their quarters. Why do I not share their food every time they eat? But indeed, I do both eat and enjoy your food, I protested, and I told them how much I had relished the laban they had sent for my luncheon. They were dissatisfied. You eat too little, you eat, said Mama, measuring her little finger. So much, and we want you to eat so much. And she extended both arms, laughing. Tonight, she said, we made you a special dolma with no meat in it, so you can eat it without sin. I explained again the only reason I did not eat meat, because being an old woman, I found it suited my health. But you're not so old, they replied, wondering. 60, I answered, showing my hand 6 times to Deya Kota. And I, she countered in Kurdish, and I understood her. And 48, 40, she held up her hands too, and 8. Hashta, I repeated. That is 8. Ha, she said, delighted. Then you begin to know Kermenji. I answered that when I was young, I had learnt in my country the language of the gypsies, and that they too said that Hashta for 8, at which both women wondered. Deya Kota said that I must return here in the summer, for then it was cool and green, and the water remained cold as ice. It is the peculiar property of our water, she explained, that in winter it is warm, and in summer icy cold. Well, I'm sure it's colder in the winter. It's just by comparison, right? Again, she asked me to tell her about my sons who were soldiers, although she had not heard of Hitler. The word soldiers has an ugly sound to Yazidis, who have had much savage treatment for resisting military service. Then they summoned me to come with them to the courtyard by the fakir's house, and I took my seat on gaily colored blankets, while Deya Kota left with the novice for her evening round of the holy places. The dolma was excellent. I hear that dolma was introduced lately at cocktail parties in London. But in case those who read this chapter do not know what they are a rissola of rice and savory herbs wrapped in young vine leaves, steeped in brine. They are cooked in olive oil, and each morsel is as big as a thumb, I doubt if they have the knack of cooking them in England. Even our Indian cook can never quite achieve the perfect flavor. In the fakir's courtyard, the sheikh had sat all day, working his spoons. Standing in a heap of chips, he showed me his implements. He began his spoon by hewing out of the block a piece of the size required, and chipping it until it took on the rough shape of a spoon. This he did with a small fas, a light, sharp-bladed axe, with its haft and handle at right angles to the blade and set in the center of the blunt edge. Next, he used a hook-shaped tool with a broad, sharp blade for hollowing out the bowl of the spoon, for scraping and finishing, and for any decoration on the broad, flat handle. He employed ordinary knives. The spoons are intended to ladle up curds, laban, or burgle, both staple items of diet. The Kurdish sergeant of police, sitting close by, took one of the just finished spoons and incised on it a rough design, telling me that it was intended for me. Meanwhile, the sheikh and I talked of death and burial, and of the duties of the sheikh and P at such times. He was perfectly willing to give me information, and illustrated his meaning with pieces of oak wood. This is the dead man, and this is the wall, and so on. And the sheikh and Peer, is it supposed to say Peer? So, yeah, he strikes from a distance, I guess, with a tool. Rather than slowly carving out the bit of the spoon. But the picture almost makes it look like it's like a giant spoon, like the size of a bowl. So I don't. But maybe there's something small that we can't see. When a man dies, he said, the sheikh, accompanied by a peer, okay, yeah, that's definitely got to be peer instead of P, goes to the house of the deceased and washes the body with soap and hot water, then places upon the closed eyes a little sheikh adat earth. Ko Barek. Women dress the body in its clothes and give the sheikh the shroud consisting of 9 dhara of Japanese calico. The sheikh and peer sew this into a long bag into which the corpse is placed. Feet foremost, a strip is torn off the head end by the sheikh and used to tie up the mouth of the bag. The strip being well knotted, the body is borne to the grave on a bier. If the dead person is a woman, the grave is dug to the depth of the digger's neck. When he stands in the hole, if a man, the top of the grave should be level with his breast. A short wall is built on either side of the interior of the grave, and a lahad, or recess, behind the head is made. But the narrower ends at the head and foot are apparently not covered with masonry. Stones and pebbles are laid upon the body when it is placed in the grave facing the east, and above the earth. The body does not lie on its back, but on its side. Passing from death to life, we come upon the question of dowries, and those present began to tease Mama about her dowry. Her husband, they said, did not pay much for her, though dowries may run very high indeed. Jadon said were often far more than the young husband could afford. Mama took their chaffing good-naturedly. Yeah, it should be about character, not, wealth and status, or even the bodily whatever, but sitting with her young breasts uncovered, suckling her pretty baby, her sister-in-law, our Haji's stepmother, sat with us also. She had just finished giving her baby daughter Gule the breast. Daya Kota had joined the circle and sat listening to the talk, gently smiling. Baby Gule was thin and pale, but her spirit did not match her puny body. She smiled, chuckled, and gurgled, and back-scrapped in acknowledgement of my blandishments, kicking her small legs and opening her mouth in wide baby grins. She loves the Hatun, they cried, and knowing that I had children of my own, did not fear the eye of envy. Moreover, had I not distributed amulets against the evil eye all around, the Yakota, too, talked to the babies in tender Kurdish. All the children of the place, the little Suleiman and her owl little niece, adore Deyakota, who has a motherly way with her, and doubtless, in her cast-off lay life, had children of her own. And remember, you got the blue, black, white, yellow strings.